Hey folks, so here we are in the third section of our making a stage model videos where we take all the parts and pieces that you have already cut out, including all the specialty pieces, and we add a little glue and a little compression, and we put it all together and assemble it into a stage model that you can then fill with all of your own designs. So things that you're going to need today. You're going to need all the pieces you've cut out. You're going to need glue, right? You can use Elmer's glue, you can use tacky glue, you can use Sobo, I'm a big fan of. So really any good crafting adhesive. The other thing that you're going to need is push pins. These are important because what they do is they help compress the two pieces together and just hold it in place so that you can walk away. If you don't have push pins available, one thing that I sometimes like using is a paper clip, which you can bend into a stabby thing that will do the same job. Okay, let's jump in.
Here's our stage deck with its lovely coped edge, right? Now, we know that we have 4 supports and a 60 or a 58-foot deck. Now, if you take 60 divided by 4 into 4 sections, it would be 15, right? We actually are going to do this every 12 feet. 12, 24, there's 36, 36, 48. And that's going to give us 4 support spots that make sense for us. And give you the most support along the center of the stage where you're going to be putting the most weight. 12, 24, 36, 48. Okay?
It's important to remember that you're not going to see these supports, so we're going to be putting them on the back side, and you don't have to be too careful with the gluing, but we do want to make sure that the support is there. What you'll do is you'll take each piece and you're going to run the glue right along the long edge, and then you're going to line each piece up carefully to the marks that you've made on the bottom of the stage deck, compress for a couple of seconds and hold it in place just like so, and then you'll move on to the next. Assembly goes pretty quickly, but you don't want to hurry it. You don't want it to be too sloppy, and you want to make sure that the seams are nice and strong. So make sure that as you're placing things in, you hold them for a second so that they can compress. If the glue gets out of control, you can wipe it away with your finger or with a cloth or a paper towel. But again, here for the stage supports, that isn't as important as in other areas.
Now can take our base plate and our back wall, and we're going to glue those together. This one's a little more complicated because it's a giant right angle, and it's one of the biggest seams in the entire model. And we have a choice to make here. One, we have this damaged edge. We can either have our back wall here, sort of dealing with that and covering up that there, or we can have it out there. I'm gonna suggest that you actually put it along the damaged edge because it covers it up. It's such a long seam, and the deck is going to go over it and all sorts of stuff. It's going to hide it. It's going to be beautiful. All right. Now, you're going to put the glue along the bottom edge of the back wall. So, and it's written back wall here. So I'm going to flip it so that I know where the back is. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing I was doing with those stage supports. And I'm gluing right along the edge here.
So you spread the glue along the edge and maybe spread out some of the globs with your fingers so that it doesn't explode everywhere. And when you're ready, hold them up against each other and make sure that that line is flush. Then you take your pins and you can pin through the base plate into the back wall, and that holds them in place. I'm doing about 4 spots there, and then that's about it.
Again, if you look in here, you're going to see that there's some glue overflow. Again, this is all going underneath the stage deck, so I don't care about that yet. There are going to be other pieces where we do care about that.
You really want to pay attention to the glue on some of the later pieces. Here along this back wall base seam, if there's a little excess, it's not a big deal because again, no one's going to see it. Save your energy for the parts that need it. The most important seam is going to be right along the front of the stage, and we'll get to that later. And now you've done the stage deck and the support pieces, and you've done the back wall and the base plate. We're going to take a break, about 15-20 minutes while they dry, before we start moving on to the next thing. So grab a drink of water, go to the bathroom, do what you gotta do.
Hey folks, so I have let our first gluing pieces dry, and now we're going to move on to the next step. So I'm going to take these pins out, and you know, it's not going to be like cured dried, but it's going to be pretty dried. Now, what we've got here, right, you see there should be a little overhang on either side, which is good. And then we're going to take one of our side pieces, and the reason why I put the stage deck in place here is that we're going to use it as a way to keep the spacing honest on this whole thing. All right, so go. And then I put this on the other side. And pin that there. Pin that there. Pin that there. Here. Pinning here. And pinning here. And then I take this guy out and I set this aside. You can see it's starting to take shape there. Now this guy, we're worrying about one seam and one seam only right now. And it's our fancy one. Oh. So this is the difficult part, right? Because this little flap of goodness here is a little sensitive. So what we want to do is pin into the side there. and then to the side here. And then, remember I was saying that this is the only one that you really want to worry about the excess on, so I'm wiping the excess off. And then once that happens, I can take this, I can pin it into each of the stage supports. Or at least a couple of them. You don't need to do all of them actually. And you want to just kind of give it some love there. And then again, what we do now, because this is the patient part of this whole process, is
we let it dry, we walk away.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, so we have now taken another 15, 20-minute, half-hour break, let some glue dry, and what we have now is this piece, and I'm going to remove all of the pins from that. Now the nice thing about the pins is that they leave a hole, but it's a very small hole. So it's one that we're sort of okay with. And because we are doing it on the outside, it's not really going to affect the overall appearance of the model. So we've got our base plate and our back wall, like so. And now, for a close look, you can see that coping line. There's a little lip, and we can cut that away, and we will. But how much nicer that looks than seeing all of that wood, which is great. So I'm going to remove these puppies. And then the next step becomes attaching this guy. And this is going to be like the lion's share of all the gluing here that happens. Helps if you open the glue. Right, so like I said, there's a lot of glue happening here. Okay, so now we've applied all the glue. And what we'll do is carefully slide this pup in, right? Pin here, pin there, pin here, pin there. We're going to add a couple more pins on that side just because. See, there's a little gap happening here. One of the other things you can do if you find yourself fighting a piece a little bit is, now keep in mind I also put all that glue on the under part, right, into here, right? And that's what's supposed to make this real nice and strong. Now, in order to help pin that in place, we are going to add some weight. A few books there to help weigh it down. And then, again, we will go and let it dry. I'm just going to hold this here for a couple seconds. But the really important thing is to take your time with all the gluing and everything else. It looks like it goes together really fast, and it does. The cutting looks like it goes fast, and that does too. But take your time. You know, the more you hurry, the more mistakes get made, and the more mistakes get made, the more inaccurate. And the other thing to remember is that those cutting sections are the sections to spend the real time on, right? I think that if you've been following along with these videos and have been going along with the video, you'll probably find that the mistakes you made early on are biting you now, right? So that's something to know from the get-go, all right? So we're gonna let this dry, and then we'll take out the final pins, do one little touch-up, and we'll have it be complete. So we're at the final couple of steps. We have the house walls to put on, and we have a little bit of trimming to do. So first things first, we're going to take this weight off. There we go. And we're going to undo the pins. That's still a little loose, but that's all right. This was our trouble corner, but it seems to be doing fine now. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this trim first so we don't have the walls to deal with. Now, there's a little bit of a lip here that right? So, this is careful work. And frankly, not my best work, but that's all right. And that, at the very least, is a little bit better. If worse comes to worse, you can always go over some of this stuff with Sharpie or with a little bit of gaff tape. And, you know, gaff tape is a beautiful thing. So, last thing, house walls. The house walls are going to be inset just a little bit, not very much. What we'll do to help ourselves out is put this on its back. Fine 1/4 inch. And what did I do with my pencil? What did I do with my pencil? Well, it's not the pencil, but it's a pencil anyway. Great. So set it by about a foot. 2 feet. I'm just kidding. 2 feet. Right? So 2 and 58. Move it down to the bottom here. Two and 58. Voila. And this is just like all of the other pieces, right? We're a little less concerned about this being super, super, super tight.
And the reason why you want to do the house wall in the first place is simply so that you have some functional idea about what the sight lines are that you might be dealing with for when you're actually putting your set in. Sight lines are, well, they're important. And you know, as we are putting together this practice model, we want to be able to mimic as many of the things that you want to have to think about as we can.
Right? Ain't no thing. Right? Oof. There we go.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, you now have a stage model. You have house walls, a proscenium opening. You have an area that you can use for a fly loft and can raise things and lower them in over, right? You can reach in from the sides. You can send light in from the sides and the top and the back. But what you also have is a pretty solid, although this is still drying, what you have is a pretty solid representation of a functional theater. And that means that we can now start thinking about how to fill it. So keep on following, keep on watching, and we'll start filling these things with sets. Thanks so much. Bye.